to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Well, it is nearly the weekend, but we don't get to enjoy that weekend just yet. You got to enjoy the 5-Pack first, right? We welcome you into Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink with you on this Friday. And although the weekend is beckoning, and although today, I saw this right before the show, is National Leave Work Early Day, despite all that, we're not leaving early today. We're with you until 1 o'clock here on the 5-Pack. We give you an hour every day, whether we need a break or not. We're still here every single day. Speaking of breaks, though, I think next week I'll be on a break. So maybe we do take breaks from time to time here. Good to have our producer, Heather Klein, with us on this Friday. Great to have you as well. If you are new to the proceedings here with the 5-Pack, let's make it simple. 5 things that matter right now, followed by 5 things that will matter tonight and into the weekend. And then we have our pack rip. And today it's a classic. If it's not 1990 Fleer baseball around these parts, then it's 1990 Donruss baseball around these parts. Been a while since we took a stroll through the 1990 Donruss pack, which every time I look at the pack, it tells me right there that there are over 1 million prizes available. And although there are like 3 trillion of these cards, and we've opened a portion of them, we've yet to win any of the million prizes. So maybe today's the day. Stick around for that coming up at the end of the show. Okay, let's get things rolling with 5 things that matter right now. And you guessed it, we're starting with last night's Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I was talking to Heather right before we got rolling, and she asked me if I watched a good portion of the game. And I said, yeah, I pretty well watched the first half, and then I would just check in like every 10 minutes in the second half. And I was able to do that because really from first whistle to last whistle last night, it was all Nuggets. Like, it was all Denver. Final score was, 9 points? I mean, it was 11 points, 104-93. But if you watched this game, or even just the first half, it never felt that close. At the end of 3 quarters, Denver was up by 21. And what was kind of remarkable about last night is, okay, Nikola Jokic did his thing. He had a triple-double. But honestly, he wasn't really the star of the show. The star of the show were the other guys, like Bruce Brown hitting big shots, and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. Like, these were the guys that really stepped forth in Game 1 for Denver. Let's take a look at some of the early highlights from last night's win.
And good looks. Gordon sees an opening. Euro step left-handed. Aaron Gordon bursting out of the gate here in Game 1. 3-second difference, shot clock and game clock. Brown, Caldwell Pope fires up a 3. Rebound Zeller, knocked away, picked up Gordon, nice feed, and Jokic banks it in. Brown floats it up, way off, Porter right there with a slam. Michael Porter. And it's a 6-point Miami deficit after they trail by 12. Michael Porter. Adebayo almost got a piece of it, and Porter with the left hand.
Adebayo, like Jokic, is a point center. Terrific dish.
Jokic, here comes the double team, spins away, finds Brown wide open. Bruce Brown from downtown.
Thought we'd give you the highlights when it was still a game. The Heat made a run late, but like I said, it didn't really scare the Nuggets. Jokic a triple-double. Jamal Murray good. Like, those two guys were very good. No knock on those guys. I mean, Jokic, what was it? 27, 10, and 14. By the way, he now has 15 playoff triple-doubles. That is third all-time in NBA history. He's not too far behind like LeBron and Magic to move up that list. Jamal Murray was good. 26 and 10. Aaron Gordon, 16 points. 12 of those came in the first quarter. Michael Porter Jr. had 14 points, 13 rebounds, a couple of blocks. Kind of fascinating. I was looking at the box score today, and the Nuggets only played 8 guys only 6 of them played more than 10 minutes. So they had all that rest, and honestly, they made good with the rest. They were able to put their starters out there to play their starters to eat up those minutes. Now, on the other side with Miami, again, they weren't really in this game last night. They just weren't. But I got to say, everybody's like, whoa, man, Denver's going to really smoke the Heat. And, yesterday on the show, I picked the Nuggets, just like everybody else. And I said, the odds you're getting on the Heat to pull off the upset here to win the title are truly enticing. Like there's something to take a look at if you are of the wagering ilk. I'm still not disenchanted with the Heat after last night. They didn't play good. They literally did not play good in this game, and they were still kind of around. They could have lost by 30 in that game. They lose by 11. And again, they weren't as close as 11. But to me, that was a stinker of an effort. But I would be willing to wager a lot come Sunday when they have game 2 of this series that you're going to see a better Heat team. As of now, Denver is favored by 9 in that game coming up on Sunday. That is an 8 o'clock tip-off Sunday night. ABC will again have the coverage. Let's get some of the post-game sound. We start with Aaron Gordon, who was asked about the idea that, hey, there are other Nuggets on the team besides Nikola Jokic.
It's equal opportunity for the most part, but we're going through big fella. You know what I mean? So big fella makes the right play, makes the right read. And he's just so smart. He's so cerebral out there, such a floor general. And Maul's a floor general too. So if you make the right read and make the right cut or set the right screen, you're going to be open and the ball moves. The ball finds the open man. The open man is the right play. And that's how we play the game, and it's a fun way to play.
Fun way to play that way when you're winning games like they were last night. The Nuggets seem to be winning quite often, coming off that easy series against the Lakers, then the long rest, they get the win last night. On the other side, here's Eric Spoelstra talking about game 1 and maybe what lessons the Heat can learn as they look ahead to game number 2.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to go to school on it. They're in a pretty good rhythm, especially in that first half. Our disposition, the multiple efforts, the resolve in the second half was much better. But, you get to this level, it has to be complete games of that kind of disposition. And even if you have that, you're not always going to win, all the possessions that you want. But that's what you expect. You don't expect it to be easy when you get to this final round. This is a great challenge. It's going to require more. We'll get to work and see what we can do better, what we can do harder, what we can do with more effort, what we can do with more focus, etc.
We'll see if they have it come Sunday night. Bally Sports there with the footage in the postgame of Spoelstra. Did you notice the graphic there? Notably the free throw graphic. Miami was perfect from the line. And usually that's a great thing. I don't care if it's pro basketball, college basketball, high school basketball. It's a great thing to be perfect from the charity stripe. But did you pay attention to the number? The Heat shot 2 free throws. 2 free throws last night. That is an all-time low in NBA Finals history. So let's start there. We got to get it. Yeah, usually you'd say, oh my God, the refs, they swallowed their whistles. Nah, in the NBA, when you are shooting that few free throws, it's not on the refs. Because the refs are more than happy to blow the whistle in the NBA. And they do pay attention to trying to even up the free throws. They do. They'll say they don't, but they do. They would have loved to blow the whistle last night in favor of the Heat to send them to the line. They just couldn't because the Heat weren't aggressive. What'd they settle for? 39 three-pointers? They were okay from 3 last night, but they just stood around for the most part. I thought Jimmy Butler looked a little tired. The other guys didn't really step up. We've seen Caleb Martin have his moments. Max Strus last night was 0 of 10 from the field. So they just didn't get that support. Butler was not sharp, but nobody else really stepped up outside of Bam Adebayo. The rest of those guys were just kind of passengers on the train. So game 1, going to Denver there, fairly easy. I would suspect a much tighter affair come Sunday night. Let's move to item number 2 on what matters today, and we take you over to Flushing, New York. We got to talk about the Metropolitans, because yesterday they finished off a sweep. Yes, a sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies, and a guy named Mark Canha was a big part of the win.
5 innings this year. A little high for him. And Canha drives one out to left field. Schwarber takes a look, and that ball is out of here. Mark Canha strikes again. A 2-run homer to put the Mets in front, 3-2.
And they go on for the 4-2 victory. Don't look now, but the Mets are only 3.5 games back of the Atlanta Braves. Don't look now if you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan. What's their record now? 25-31. They are 8 games back of the Atlanta Braves. But here's the silver lining there. Philadelphia is playing pretty bad offensive baseball. Like, I was looking at the numbers this morning. Like, Schwarber has been pitiful this year. Trey Turner, through 2 months, has been a bust. JT Realmuto looks like an old catcher. Like, those 3 guys are all failing right now. Like, Harper's doing his thing. Castellanos, Brandon Marsh is having a pretty good year, but everybody else is really struggling with the bats. And those superstars, Turner, Schwarber, Realmuto, these guys are failing right now. The silver lining is this, though. Last year on this date, June 2nd, Philadelphia was sitting with a 22-29 record. Again, they're 25-31. They're actually better this year on June 2nd. Of course, they played more games, so they have less time to turn it around. But all is not lost with the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, to be honest with you, the Mets win, the Mets sweep. Okay, that's news. But most of the news came after the game, courtesy of one Max Scherzer, who Scherzer has been like all over the place in the first 2 months of the season. We've had him yelling about sticky stuff. We've had rather mediocre results. We had him suspended for 10 games, like on and on and on with Max Scherzer. Yesterday, 7 innings, 1 earned run allowed. He was good. But after the game, all he wanted to talk about is the fact that between one of the innings on Thursday, he did not get his usual, and according to him, much needed 8 warm-up pitches between innings. He was only granted 7, and let's just say that Max Scherzer was a bit steamed about that development.
You're supposed to get 8 warm-up pitches, and I had 7, and I asked for, can I get the 8th pitch? Can I do my normal routine warm-up? And he's telling me it's a clock. And, that's what's so frustrating is that, look, I'm doing my normal routine. Why do we need to step through the game and have the umpires, change routines when it's not my fault of what's going on here? That's I'm talking to Tripp, and he's sitting there saying, like, it's not, I can't do anything about it, because if I let you throw the pitch, then MLB gets mad at him. And so this goes back to why do we need a pitch clock for that situation? If I throw one more pitch, I'm 1 second slower? Like, why can't the umpire have discretion in that situation to allow a pitcher to throw his 8 normal warm-up pitches? Why do we have to be so anal about this, to have the clock up everybody's face, shove it in everybody's face, and try to step out every little single second that's going through the game? And so it's situations like that that really are frustrating for not only pitchers, players, but even the umpires. And that's what Tripp says. Like Tripp's handcuffed. Why is Tripp handcuffed to not allow something normal, a normal routine, just a normal routine? Why can't Tripp make that call?
Oh, Tripp, we wish he could make that call. Hey, here's the thing. I like Max Scherzer. I do. I like Max Scherzer. He's going to the Hall of Fame. I think he deserves it. I still think he's good. Not great, but he's good. As good as he's been in the last 4 starts, he's still kind of low on the strikeout rate. He's fine. Let's not worry about him, and he has rebounded from a slow start. Here's the thing. Can you just relax for a second, Max? Like, seriously? I always say this. If you're going to moan about not getting 8 pitches and say, well, it's not a big deal, just give me 1 more pitch. Well, then it shouldn't be a big deal if you only have 7. Okay. Give me a break. And the whole thing was, I think his catcher made the last out of the previous inning, and the catcher was a little slow getting behind the plate. And I get it. Max Scherzer is a really intense dude, but really, that's going to get you fired up. And I'm sure the question was asked. It's not like Max walked in there and said, hey, somebody asked me about the pitch clock. And he's been a guy, even going back to spring training, has kind of complained about it. And it's like, dude, everybody in baseball is having to deal with this. I think you can too. Okay. Whether it's 6, 7, or 8 warm-up pitches, shut up and go out there and pitch. It's like, it's kind of tiring. Like I said, I like Scherzer, but like everything this year is with him off the field and like moaning about umps, and we have the sticky stuff. And it's just like, dude, everybody else is dealing with this. And I don't hear them after every game just screaming and yelling about baseball rules. But I guess Max Scherzer has taken it upon himself to scream about the baseball rules. Tonight, the Mets will be hosting Toronto. That'll be a pretty fun series this week. And as for the Phillies, they go on the road to take on Washington. Should note with Philadelphia, Alec Boehm placed on the IL. That is important because Alec Boehm has been mostly the everyday first baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies when they lost Rhys Hoskins for the year. You don't have Boehm now. Last 2 games, they played Cody Clemens at first base. That's pretty ugly. There is a chance Bryce Harper could play at first base. Remember when he was taking those ground balls about a month ago? He is still not cleared to play on the field. They have said time and time again that would come probably around the All-Star break. All-Star break's about 5 weeks away. Are you going to go with Cody Clemens as your first baseman for the next 5 weeks? You might see Harper out there at first base. Maybe not every day, but on occasion for the Phillies. Okay, let's go to our third item that matters, and we go to St. Louis, Missouri. Actually, I guess we go to Pittsburgh because the Cardinals are in Pittsburgh tonight. But we got the news late yesterday, and it looks like it's going to come true today, that Jordan Walker is going to be called back up by the St. Louis Cardinals. You might recall coming into the season, Jordan Walker was the number 1 pick over at DraftKings Sportsbooks to win the NL Rookie of the Year. Right now, you can get Jordan Walker at plus 6,000 to win the NL Rookie of the Year. He started with the Cardinals, lasted about 3 weeks. His first 20 games were not bad, but there was no power. There was a lot of strikeouts. There was a bit of a log jam in the outfield. So they sent him down to AAA. Well, I will tell you this. Jordan Walker has been the same guy at AAA that he was with the Cardinals in the first 20 games. And sometimes you see these guys go to the minors and they just rip the cover off the baseball. That did not happen with Walker. I mean, he's hit like 230 and like all the numbers are the same in the minors that they were in the majors. What has changed here is the Cardinals are a little bit sleepy on their offense. Tyler O'Neill is hurt. Dylan Carlson is limping. They're having to play Alex Burleson out in the outfield. Brendan Donovan, who's a better infielder than outfielder, is having to play in the outfield. So they called Jordan Walker up. Now, one thing to note with Walker, his defense was bad. That was another reason to send him to AAA. I don't think his defense has improved much, but the option that the Cardinals have here is they could actually make him the weak side of a platoon at DH. One issue they had is early in the season, certainly from about mid-April to mid-May, Nolan Gorman was crushing the baseball. Nolan Gorman hits from the left side. He's a butcher with the mitt, so he's kind of the everyday DH for the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, he's gone into a slump now. Now he hits from the left side, so you could obviously start him against righties. Walker hitting from the right side, you could start him against lefties. So we'll see what the Cardinals do. But Walker is back in the major leagues, and we'll just have to follow the storyline, if you will. It was not a take off and never look back start for Jordan Walker. And occasionally we have those. You know, Ronald Acuna did that. Juan Soto did that. Fernando Tatis Jr. did that. Other guys did not. You know, Jared Kelenic is a famous case of a guy who failed like 3 or 4 times. And now this year is finally breaking through and becoming that guy that everybody thought. You can even look back all the way to Mike Trout. You know, his first 2 months were awful. So we'll see where Jordan Walker goes from here. I mentioned those odds, plus 6,000 to win the Rookie of the Year. Corbin Carroll right now is at plus 110. So he's kind of running away with that NL Rookie of the Year title. As for the Cardinals, they are 4.5 games back in the NL Central, despite being 7 games under 500 as they open their series in Pittsburgh tonight. I was looking at the odds. Here they are. To win the NL Central, Milwaukee, these are terrible odds, minus 135. I don't know what the sports books are smoking on that. Minus 135 on Milwaukee. That's terrible money. Cardinals are plus 220. That makes a little more sense to me. Cardinals to make October at this very moment are plus 140. Now, I should note, if they're going to make October, it's probably almost certain to be as your NL Central champ. I doubt we're getting a wild card out of the NL Central this year. Maybe, but doubtful. So in other words, don't mess around with that plus 140 to make the playoffs. You're much better served to go to the plus 220 to win the NL Central. Let's go to item number 4 of what does matter on this Friday on the 5-pack. Well, it's happened again. Chris Sale injured again. I said this a couple of times when we talked about Boston, talked about Sale. Chris Sale leaving last night with a shoulder injury. Chris Sale, since the beginning of 2020, that COVID year, Chris Sale has thrown a grand total now of like 108 innings in 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. Leaves last night with a shoulder injury. Let me take you through the ailments since the end of 2019. Tommy John surgery, broken ribs, broken pinky, and a broken wrist. And now we got a sore shoulder. Let's go to Alex Cora, manager for the Boston Red Sox. After last night's game, and again, Sale left in like the 4th inning, talking about the injury and the setback for the Red Sox left-hander.
Sore shoulder. He'll have an MRI tomorrow, and we'll know more. So hopefully for the best. Obviously, it didn't look great. Vila was down, I'll say in the 2nd inning, right? It went from 95 to 90. So, let's wait and see.
Have you said anything about discomfort, or are you just going by the...
No, they're in that inning, he's the way he was moving on the mound, and obviously kind of like people notice it, and I kept looking at the velo, so they hit some 95, so, but like I said, we'll check tomorrow and see where we're at.
And we'll get the news probably later today. Red Sox getting set to take on Tampa Bay. What do they lose now with Sale? Because I would suspect at the very least he's going on the IL. You're probably going to be without him probably 3 to 4 weeks. And it could be worse for Chris Sale. We'll just have to see. He had been pitching, I would argue, like a low-end number 2 this season. For the most part, Chris Sale's always been the number 1. He's been an ace. He's 34 years old. He's had an unfair ERA. I think he's like in the 5s. He's pitched better than that. He does have 5 victories. Ks are pretty good. His control has been a little off, but he's not been bad this year. But you lose Chris Sale, and that just continues kind of this unsettled nature with the Red Sox rotation. Like Brian Bayo and Garrett Whitlock, Tanner Houck, Paxton. I mean, this is not a rotation where, honestly, you look at all 4 of those other guys behind Sale, and honestly, you don't feel good about going like even 2 or 3 turns through the rotation with all those guys making their starts. You just don't. I mean, Bayo has never done that. Whitlock and Houck, their bullpen, their rotation, they're injured, they're in the majors, they're in the minors, they've been all over the place. And James Paxton, I mean, good grief. There's very few pitchers in baseball that have a lengthier list of injuries than James Paxton. So Red Sox are playing fine. They're actually, right there in the playoff conversation, which is a bit surprising to me. But if Sale's going to be out for a while, that is another difficult road for them to climb. Again, tonight, Tampa Bay, they're taking on Glasnow. Garrett Whitlock is on the other side. Let's go to our 5th and final item that matters today. Get you some hockey. Lo and behold, we're less than a month away from NHL free agency. Stanley Cup, of course, starts tomorrow. We'll talk about that coming up in the 5 things that will matter. But we got some news yesterday that perhaps one of the most sought-after NHL free agents this offseason is no longer going to be sought after, and that is because of an injury. Patrick Kane, the longtime Chicago Blackhawk, who was traded from Chicago to the New York Rangers this year, set up for free agency. But news came yesterday that he has now had hip surgery at the age of 34, and he is going to be out for 4 to 6 months. Now, Kane is probably going to Toronto as a Hall of Famer. Not to Toronto as a Maple Leaf, but, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's got 3 Stanley Cup rings. He's one of the all-time greats in Chicago Blackhawk history. I was shocked when I looked at the free agency rankings this year going into the offseason, and Patrick Kane I saw a couple places where he was the number 1 free agent. I saw a few more where he was number 3 or number 4 or 5. I couldn't wrap my head around that. I am surprised, and maybe it speaks more to the available free agents, and I think that is part of the case. I mean, you've got, I guess, Bergeron's out there, Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly. To see a guy coming off the season he had, Patrick Kane had a bad season. It might have been his worst season, but he had 57 points in 73 games. I was surprised to see that he would be sought after in this market. Now, he is a veteran. He is a respected dude. He's got the Stanley Cup rings, all that, but paying $6-7 million a season for a 34-year-old, couldn't see it. And now with this hip surgery that was announced yesterday, who signs this guy? And I mean, Patrick Kane was dealing with a hip issue all year. Now, he played through it, give him credit. He chose to have the surgery. He probably knew that if a team even was interested in him, they'd look at the meds and they'd put him through a physical and say, oh, this ain't going to happen. So he just decided to take care of it. Now, you play this out 4 to 6 months, you're talking anywhere between October and Christmas for Patrick Kane. So even if you sign the guy, you're going to have a guy nearing 35, and you're going to get him for a half season. So I will be following that market. I mean, is anybody giving him more than a $3 million base or $2 million base? Is anybody giving him more than a year? I mean, sure, there'll be incentives and options and all that, but there's a guy that lost a lot of money, getting set for NHL free agency. Again, that opens on July 1st. Of course, before any of that, we got to get a Stanley Cup champion. Speaking of that Stanley Cup final, that is coming your way tomorrow in Vegas. That will be, sorry to spoil it, that will be one of the 5 things that will matter. But we also have some other items that will matter, and we'll tell you all about them coming up next, right here on the 5-Pack on the Better Sports Network.
Hey, it's Rick Kamla, a.k.a. Ricky Props for Better Sports Network. Let's go to the wood, Miami style, with Jimmy Butler at Denver in Game 2, over 26.5 points, minus 125, 13 in Game 1 on 14 shots. Here comes the correction. He's going to be more aggressive. His shot attempts will be over 20 in Game 2. Butler, over 1.5 steals, minus 155, 1 steal in Game 1. He has not gone back-to-back games without double-digit steals in these playoffs. He's been over this number in 12 of 7 in the playoffs. Butler, over 39.5 combo points, rebounds, and assists, minus 115. Over this number in 5 of the last 8. 27 PRA in Game 1. Big-time bounce-back factor in play. And then Bam Adebayo, over 9.5 rebounds, minus 130. Over this number in 3 straight. 13 in Game 1. Played 40 minutes in Game 1. They just can't take him off the floor. Be sure to check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Yes, indeed. We welcome you back on this Friday. Kyle Elfrink with you. We were talking about that Chris Sale injury. Do want to remind you, head over to fantasyalarm.com right now. They've got a fresh look and analysis of the latest on all injuries, not just Sale, but many injuries taking place in Major League Baseball. Good long list, which I shouldn't say good long list. I should just say, hey, it's a long list of injuries. But for the latest on all of that, head over to fantasyalarm.com. Of course, a lot of DFS stuff there for you MLB players as we get set for a busy Friday night slate. And as usual, they are going through their NFL and fantasy football preview stuff, a lot of best ball write-ups, strategies that you can employ. Check it all out at fantasyalarm.com. And when you are over there, make sure to sign up for the next 6 months of all access, everything, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever you're looking for, golf. They got it all at Fantasy Alarm. You can get the next 6 months at half off. Half off for the next 6 months All you got to do is use the promo code ALARM50, ALARM50 to take advantage of 6 months for half price. FantasyAlarm.com. Okay, let us get to the matter at hand, the 5 things that will matter, which today, is June 2nd. What does that mean? Well, today is Lou Gehrig Day in Major League Baseball, which is a yearly fundraiser that all of the teams in baseball put on. They put a lot of auction items, things you can purchase, experiences, all of that. They do it every June 2nd. This is the 3rd year they've been doing this. And of course, it is to raise funds for ALS. That, of course, is the disease that struck Lou Gehrig. And you might be wondering why June 2nd. For a few reasons. One, Lou Gehrig's Ironman streak started on June 2nd. And number 2, Lou Gehrig passed away at the age of 37 on June 2nd. And of course, he was suffering from ALS. And I read, and, personally, I have somebody that I know quite well currently going through this disease, and it is devastating. Pretty much it's just a failure of the body. The body kind of locks up. Mind is still there, but the ability to move legs, to move arms, to talk, all of that is lost. And I read a portion on ALS. Lou Gehrig came down with ALS in the 30s. So we're talking almost 90 years ago. His prognosis that he got 90 years ago would not have been much different if he had gotten it today in 2023. Like, for whatever reason, this is a disease, this is an ailment that has been really difficult to battle and to find cures for. So today is a day throughout baseball, and you'll see all sorts of things tonight if you're watching the games, what have you. And if you go to MLB.com, if you have a certain team that you root on, all of them are auctioning some items off to raise awareness of ALS and to certainly raise some money for ALS studies and treatments as we look into the future. So do take note of that. Today is Lou Gehrig Day. And speaking of Gehrig, if you did not know, everybody knows him for the Ironman streak. Great player, too. In fact, no first baseman in the history of baseball has a better career WAR, wins above replacement, than Lou Gehrig. Better than Albert Pujols, better than any first baseman in the history of baseball. I saw a number where there have been only 7 players who have ever had multiple seasons of at least 400 total bases. 7 in the history of baseball. Lou Gehrig is one of those 7, and he did it 5 times the 400 total bases. So certainly the disease is kind of overwhelming. Heck, many people call it Lou Gehrig's disease. But the player was certainly something incredible as well. So pay attention to that. And if you are able, do make a donation on this 3rd annual Lou Gehrig Day. Let's go to our second item that will matter. The New York Yankees, the old team of Lou Gehrig. Tonight, they begin a series in LA. That'll be fun, right? Yankees at the Dodgers. That'll be some fun baseball. And it's night games on all 3 of the next nights. Tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. We'll get to that schedule in a bit. But the big news for the Yankees is that for the first time in about 6 or 7 weeks, they're going to get some clubbers back in their lineup. Word is we will see both Giancarlo Stanton and Josh Donaldson activated before tonight's game against Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. Now, we have not seen Giancarlo Stanton since April 15th. That was his last game. We have not seen Josh Donaldson since April 5th. So these 2 guys have missed, like I said, 6-7 weeks. Now, the Yankees still don't have Harrison Bader, but they are getting healthier. These are 2 guys who we can sit here and dispute what is Donaldson anymore. We can sit here and dispute, hey, is Stanton anything more than a home run hitter? But these guys are important to the bottom line. And I'll tell you what, although the Yankees are playing good baseball and they're a playoff team, they've probably been a slight bit underwhelming, and probably the biggest reason is because of their offense. Now, Aaron Judge is doing what Aaron Judge does. He's been great. But the rest of this offense, without Stanton, without Donaldson, has kind of been lacking. If you look at the numbers, and again, this includes what Aaron Judge has done for this team, the Yankees are currently 22nd in batting average. They are 22nd in on-base percentage. They are 16th in OPS. And even with the heroics of Aaron Judge, they're 10th in runs. Now, for a lot of teams, that's fine. You know, if you're the Cleveland Guardians, you'd kill for those numbers. But if you're the Yankees and you're supposed to be one of the best offenses in baseball, those are disappointing marks. We'll see if Donaldson and Stanton kind of change that trajectory. Like I said, they are expected to be activated before tonight's game in LA. I would suspect they're going to be in the lineup. Tonight, we get going at 10:10. And as noted, it's going to be Kershaw going up against Severino. That game will be on MLB Network National. None of that Apple Plus crap. So if you get MLB Network, you'll be able to watch that game. Tomorrow, we'll get another evening game, although a bit earlier. I think it's a 7:15 start on Saturday night. And Fox National will have that game. And then on Sunday night, as you might expect, Yankees and Dodgers will be the Sunday night game of the week on ESPN. So if you're interested in the big markets, the big names, the big teams, got the Dodgers and the Yankees coming up this weekend, all 3 games on national television. Moving from baseball to softball. Someone say softball, really? I tell you what, we're doing some softball. I got to give it up for softball. If you did not know, the College World Series is ongoing. And if you did not know, history in the making taking place in Oklahoma City. The Oklahoma Lady Sooners, they won yesterday. They've won 49 consecutive games. Their next game in the College World Series is tomorrow afternoon. And that game will be on ABC. You can see the Oklahoma Lady Sooners go for their 50th consecutive win. 50. And this is, okay, it's not baseball, but it's softball. It's kind of the same any given day. 50 straight in the world of softball. The Lady Sooners are 57-1 this season. Their only loss was way back in February against Baylor. I saw some other interesting things. Let's see. They've won 49 in a row. Tomorrow they're gunning for 50. The previous record was 47 in a row. Arizona did that over a quarter of a century ago, back in the late 90s. Oklahoma has 33 shutouts this year. Yesterday, they topped Stanford 2-0. Their team ERA is under 1 for the season. You can go over to DraftKings, over to the sports book, and get some odds on the Lady Sooners. Oklahoma to win the entire College World Series. It's a double elimination tournament, by the way. There are 8 teams playing down in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma is minus 800 to win the title. And again, there are still 7 other teams alive, but in a double elimination format, minus 800. I mean, this team has not lost in 4 months. So maybe it makes sense to be minus 800. Number 2 is Florida State. So if you want to go for the upset, go with the Lady Seminoles. They are plus 550, actually plus 500 to win the College World Series. But again, you can watch that tomorrow. How often do we get national coverage of women's softball? We've got it tomorrow, ABC with that game. I think Oklahoma's taking on Tennessee, 3 o'clock in the second round, and they will aim for their 50th consecutive victory. Okay, let's stay on the collegiate side of things. We've talked a lot about the SEC this week. Earlier in the week, we were talking, will they go to 8 or will they stay at 8 games? Will they go to 9 games? It does sound like this year, of course, they're going to be at 8 games. Next year, 2024, football schedule is going to be at 8. 2025 might be the move to a 9-game conference schedule. I don't want to talk about that, though. What I want to talk about is something the SEC did decide. They have decided to increase the fines for rushing onto the football field. And I get it. I understand it. It's a safety thing. How could it not be a safety thing? Look at all the havoc there. What is that, Knoxville in Tennessee? I get it. And the fines are crazy. Let's see here. The first time you storm the field, you get fined $100,000. The second time, if you're a school that storms the field, you lose your shirt, like this guy, and you are fined $250,000. If you have a third storming of the field, and this is over a 4-year span, This is not just one single solitary year and then the clock resets. If you have a third instance of storming of the field, it is a $500,000 fine. And the SEC has even left open the wiggle room to fine you more if they see fit. The previous fines were 50, 100, and 250. Now they're 100, 250, and 500. And again, that's over a 4-year period. Now, I get it. Safety, safety, safety. Okay, I understand that. Because, hey, if one incident were to happen, no one will have a problem. I'll just say, and this is just me reminiscing, and I'm probably speaking for a lot of you. If you were lucky enough to attend a major university with like a legitimate big-time football program, storming the field is like literally one of the greatest moments of probably your college career. Like for me, I went to the University of Missouri. Remember in 97 or 98, Mizzou beat Nebraska. And it was the greatest moment in like Mizzou football history in 20 years because they were terrible. But they finally beat Nebraska. It was like the first time they topped Nebraska in, 40 attempts or something. And like immediately, by the time what we did then, you tear down the goalpost, and then they would march the field goal post from the stadium all the way through the campus, all the way into downtown Columbia, Missouri, where they landed at a bar called Harpo's. That was the famous football bar, college bar in Columbia. At Harpo's, they proceeded to yank out the blowtorch and cut up the goalpost and give parts away to everybody. They would haul this damn thing through downtown. It's about a 2 to 2.5 mile walk with the goalpost. These are the memories. And now when you storm the field, there isn't a whole lot of the yanking of the goal. I think they have like created some sort of mechanism that doesn't allow you to even get the goalpost out of the ground. So I am thinking about a bygone era when I talk about ripping the goalpost out of the ground and then marching it to a bar where you cut it up into pieces. Like that's old school. But I'm telling you, those are the memories. And you saw the photos there of everybody storming the field. People are excited. They're fun. Now, again, if somebody gets trampled, God forbid, if somebody said, I'm going to shank this dude, whatever. Like it could be anything. Okay. People standing on goalposts, falling down, breaking necks, all that crap. So I get it. But man, that's something when I'm an old man sitting on the back porch with my glass of lemonade, I'll be telling my grandchildren about. You know, it used to be where we got big wins. We'd run onto the football field. But the SEC say no to that. So, and this is even if you're not at the stadium, this is something fun to watch. You can be sitting on your butt in the living room, watching these crazy kids race onto the field. We've all seen the photos, like the in Tennessee, the orange just floods onto the gridiron. No more. And hey, I've been a big proponent. Going to a college football game is way more exciting than an NFL game. Beyond belief. And one of the reasons why is that emotion. You ever seen the storming of the football field in the NFL? Hell no. Nobody does it. But in college, that's like one of the things that make it college. Excitement. The SEC is doing it with these fines, and it's coming to every conference because what the SEC does is followed by pretty well everybody else. Okay, our fifth and final thing that will matter. It's not tonight, but it's tomorrow, so we'll cheat. We'll look into the weekend. Stanley Cup Finals do begin tomorrow in Las Vegas, Nevada. It'll be the Panthers taking on the Golden Knights of Las Vegas, 8 o'clock on TNT, by the way. In fact, the entire Stanley Cup Finals, you can see it there on the schedule. Every single game is on TNT. Tomorrow night, it'll be at 8 o'clock. For game one, Vegas is a slight favorite. Minus 130 is the home team. Florida is plus 110. The series odds are a virtual coin toss. I mean, we've got Vegas at minus 125 and Florida is at plus 105. So Vegas kind of gets the edge here because they have the home ice advantage. But this should be a fun series. Neither team, I shouldn't say that. Florida was not supposed to be here. Vegas was considered probably the third or fourth best team out of the West. They are here. So it'll be fun. I know it's not got the history. I mean, Vegas has been around 6 years. Florida's been around 30. Neither franchise has ever won a cup. So somebody will win the cup for the first time. Let's hear from the head coaches. We start, I should say, with Paul Maurice. He is the head honcho for the Florida Panthers. They are in a situation kind of like the Denver Nuggets were. The Nuggets had that long break before game one. Florida, courtesy of their sweep of Carolina, they've had like 10 days off by the time they dropped the puck on Saturday night. And most notably, one of the big reasons, probably the big reason that Florida is in this spot is because of the goaltending effort that Sergei Bobrovsky has put forth. He has been locked in. He has been dialed in. He has been saving it. And this happens every NHL playoff run. Some team gets a hot goalie and they race to the finals. And that's the Panthers this year. Paul Maurice was asked about the idea that not only is the whole team off for 10 days, but now you got to get Bobrovsky back into his groove after 10 days off.
Oh, I'm not worried about him because he's got this routine that it's almost not related to what's going on the schedule, whether he's playing 14 in a row like he did in March or we get 10 days off. He's got his routine. The concern you have is the difference between challenges and opportunity. There's a challenge to this. You get 10 days off. You know, how do you can't stay in that emotional environment that you are. And then, the opportunity. We had some banged up guys and we're moving pretty good on the ice. So that's the challenge. That's the opportunity. We'll take it. We'll take the rest. I think it gives us the best chance in the legs. And if it takes us a while to get back into it, then we got to be able to hold water until we do.
That's Paul Maurice on the Florida side. As for Vegas, who's got the home game tomorrow, this will be their second Cup appearance. They've only been in the NHL as a franchise for 6 years. I might remind you that they also have 2 additional Western Conference Finals appearances. So in 4 of the 6 years, Vegas has been a Final 4 or Final 2 team. Now, Bruce Cassidy is their head coach. He's in his first year with the Golden Knights, and he talked about this early success for the franchise.
Obviously, George and Kelly did a fantastic job with the original draft. They made some good deals where they're able to get draft capital and establish players, and they used that to their advantage. Good for them. And so they started with a real solid foundation. Then the first year team, from Gerard to the players, they just established a work ethic team, and it worked. And so that from day one, you have an owner that has expectations and puts the necessary resources into, to meet those expectations. So, those things sum it up right there. And then all of a sudden you have a fan base that's supporting their team every day in a beautiful building and environment that people want to come and see the team. And so, those are some pretty good things to start with.
That fan base will be in that arena, in that environment tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I guess I got to make a pick, right? Give me Panthers in 6. I'll take the underdog, very slight underdog, but I'll take the Panthers to win it in 6. Okay, that does it for our 5 things that will matter. Quick break here, last one of the day, and then we're back to rip open this pack of 1990 Donruss. We'll do it next right here on the 5-pack.
Did the Detroit Pistons just win the NBA's offseason? Now, I know they won't get Victor Wembanyama. They didn't win the NBA lottery, but they may have hit the NBA coaching jackpot as they are getting ready to hire Monty Williams to be the team's next head coach, replacing Dwayne Casey. Now, he is drawing a king's ransom, Monty Williams, but you know what? This is a guy that had 194 wins and 115 losses, turning the Phoenix Suns organization around. He's a 2-time NBA Coach of the Year, and in Detroit, he inherited a team with good young players like Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, Cade Cunningham, and the 5th pick in this year's upcoming draft, which they could use to trade. So the Detroit Pistons are a team that I'd be looking to bet the over on their win total next year. Curious of your thoughts on the hiring of Monty Williams? Leave your analysis down there in the comment section. And while you're down there, check out a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alone.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Taking a look at our schedule here on BSN. Coming up later today, 3 o'clock, we have the Fantasy Football Game Show, courtesy of Front Yard Fantasy. Do want to remind you, a relatively new show. I think it's been going for a couple of weeks with Dan Servadidio. Comes your way at 4 o'clock today. In fact, he's with you every day at 4 o'clock here on BSN. It is Better Sports Betting. So they will look ahead at the Major League Baseball slate, some of the wagers they like, more on the NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals. That is all coming your way today, Dan, and the rest of the Fantasy Alarm crew, I should say. 4 o'clock Eastern here on the Better Sports Network. Okay, it is time for our pack break, the final one of the week. 1990 Donruss. We have not tackled. I think we had 88 Donruss to start the week, so we're going to close it down with 1990 Donruss. We've opened a couple of these here on the show, not for a couple of weeks. The wax is waxy. Let's just say that. Holy moly. Little melt action, I think, going on with these cards. Okay, so we open them up. These are the red Donruss. Not a bad card. We get our puzzle piece. I think it was Yastrzemski in 1990. Yeah. So this appears to be nothing to do with Carl Yastrzemski. This is the bottom of the puzzle. Had to get a lot of those. Okay, we start things off with no-namer. Sorry, no-namer. Greg Linton. Or Litton. Greg Litton. I'm going to make a statement here. We will not have a bigger no-namer anywhere else in this pack than Greg Litton. We may just call him the no-namer of the show. How about that? Greg Linton. He probably has about 50 of these sitting on his shelf in his house today. Greg Litton. Here's a guy. Man, if I had pulled this card in 1990, I would have gone running very quickly to my brother, to my dad, saying, look what I got. Look what I got. I got a Todd Zill rated rookie. Todd Zill. Now, Todd Zill, we were talking earlier in the show about Jordan Walker of the Cardinals. Todd Zill was the Jordan Walker of his day. Todd Zill was going to be like a 15-year stud as a catcher for the Cardinals. Now, to tell you how things can change, Todd Zill did not last as a catcher. Todd Zill went to third base. Todd Zill did not last as a St. Louis Cardinal. Todd Zill went to like 20 other baseball teams in his career. Had a fine career in big moments. A lot of big moments. Made the playoffs, all that good stuff. But it was not with the Cardinals, and it was not as a catcher. But this would have been a good pull back in 1990. Nowadays, not so much. Here is another rated rookie, another catcher from 1990s Donruss set, Kelly Mann. Now, Kelly Mann did not become anything like Todd Zill. That Kelly Mann, I don't think, was ever really heard from again after a while. Sorry, Kelly Mann. This will be your only mention on the show. Greg Minton, who was a right-handed reliever for the Angels. These are not ugly cards. You know, I kind of like the red and plenty of color, action. One of my favorite, this was, I have said this before, my older brother, his favorite player of all time was Will Clark. His second favorite player of all time is this guy, Ron Gant. And I was lucky enough, Ron Gant eventually made his way to St. Louis, and I met him at he was doing an event at like a place called Play It Again Sports, where they would sell used sports items, and did a really long sit-down interview with Ron Gant. He was a great player, really good 30-30 kind of guy. He had a devastating leg injury on a motorcycle, probably 2-3 years after this card was produced. And really bad leg injury. Atlanta released him, even though he was one of their best players. They released him. He went to Cincinnati, kind of restarted his career. Eventually ended up the St. Louis. Ron Gant, good guy. I think he's might be on local television down in Atlanta. My God, we can't get away from this guy. Storm Davis again. What is it with 1988 through 92? Every pack has a Storm Davis card. Man. Storm Davis is everywhere. The Houston Diamond King for 1990, Jim Deshaies. And I was watching yesterday's, or 2 days ago, I think. Maybe it was yesterday. The Cubs game. And Jim Deshaies is in the booth there with Boog Scalby. So Jim Deshaies, who pitched a little bit for the Cubs, I kind of remember him more with Houston. He was their Diamond King representative in this pack of cards. Every team got a Diamond King rep. Jim Gott was not the Pirates Diamond King rep because Jim Gott was on the team with Bobby Bonilla, Barry Bonds, Sid Bream, and the like, Doug Drabeck. Jim Gott was just a guy, but he did get a photo and a card. Rick Dempsey, who this probably is not fair, but I always remember like in the 80s and 90s, Rick Dempsey was seen as like the lead cut up in baseball. Like he was the clown of the locker room. Him and Roger McDowell. Roger McDowell was the other guy. like Rick Dempsey, and I don't even know if that's fair to Rick Dempsey. Maybe I'm overstating the fact. But for some reason, when I see Rick Dempsey, I think, oh, yeah, he was like the Stephen Wright of Major League Clubhouses. Oh, I misspoke. I said earlier we would not get a bigger no-namer than Greg Linton. Well, I think I incorrectly guessed. I forgot about Rick Luker. Rick Luker? Come on. Rick Luker. That's more generic. Lee Stevens. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember he was a power-hitting first baseman outfielder. They thought he kind of looks like that, right? It's very rare. We've gone through a lot of cards over the past 2 months. It's very rare where the featured photo is of the player's back. And I might remind you, Donruss did not have any photos on the back, so this was the only photo you'd get. Lee Stevens and his big butt. That's what you get. Where you could have Mark Carrion and his sneaky little mustache. Mark Carrion sitting at the old Shea Stadium. You always knew Shea Stadium because of the wood-paneled dugout. You just knew it. Here's John Russell. We have now secured 2 catchers from the Braves that both sucked. The rated rookie was that Kelly Mann and now John Russell, whoever those guys are. Hey, man, this is a nice card. Check this out. Bo Jackson Diamond Kings. We might have pulled this a couple packs ago when we opened 1990. Donruss. This was card number 1 in the entire set was this Bo Jackson card. This was not the normal card. This was just so you get like a big write-up on Bo Jackson. This is a pretty cool card. I was talking about that Carl Yastrzemski puzzle. If you're not familiar with Donruss, you'd have to buy a bunch of packs. You'd have to build out the puzzle. Here's what the puzzle looks like when it's finished. I got a card of it. This is card 588, Carl Yastrzemski. There he is. Pretty cool. And you get all the career highlights. It's kind of like they made a Cooperstown plaque, but they Donrussed it up. Finally, we close down with Dwight Evans. Here he is with the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox were good because this is recapping the 89 season. I believe they were in the playoffs against the Oakland A's. A's were a buzzsaw in 89. But Dwight Evans, man, let's see how old he would have been in 89. So he was 38 years old. And as a 38-year-old player, check this out. And this is pre-roids. Now, if you're 38 and doing this in the late 90s or early 2000s, we'd say that guy he's doped up. Got a needle in his butt. Not Dwight Evans. At the age of 38, look at that. Look at where can I get the ribbies? See those ribbies? 100. The year before, 111. The year before that, 123. And the year before that, 97. Holy moly, Dwight Evans. Those are some big-time numbers. 3 straight seasons of at least 100 ribbies when he was 36, 37, and 38. That's impressive. That's really good stuff. There you go. Dwight Evans, drafted by the Red Sox in 1969. Still playing with the Red Sox in 1989. That is insane. Congrats to you, Dwight Evans. Drafted in 69, still playing with the same baseball team in 89. Ain't going to see that. Ain't going to see 38-year-olds driving in 111 either. Not going to see me tomorrow. Not going to see me Sunday. You will see me on Monday. I'll be back with the 5-pack. 12 Eastern right here on the Better Sports Network.